Hello everyone, my name is Marian Vețeanu and I'm here today with Claudiu Codreanu.
Hello.
Last week we presented you a demo of the HTML5 biorepository application that was created through conversion from XFD to HTML5. We got many positive reviews, but in the same time you asked us how we did that, how you accomplished the conversion from XFD to HTML5. Therefore, I invited today Claudiu here, that Claudiu will walk us through the conversion of a real application from XFD to HTML5. Hi, Claudiu.
Hey, Marian.
Hey.
Thank you.
What we have here, Claudiu, this looks like the clinical system.
Yes.
Is the clinical 9?
Clinical 9.1, it's the most recent stable version of the system, XFD.
So do you think we can take from this dictionary the biorepository application and try to convert it to HTML5?
Yes, we're going to try that.
Okay.
But before we do, a little disclaimer, isn't
Sure.
all right? So what we hope to accomplish today, it's not going to be the fully finished, polished application that we've seen last time presented by Ronel, because to get there it took us a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and an entire team working on it. So I cannot hope to accomplish that in 1 hour all by myself.
Sure. So let's see how much you can accomplish in 1 hour.
Yeah, let's see that. Okay, so as usual, when we develop XFD or HTML, we do that in the Starlings Designer. So I'm going to open up the Designer. And the biorepository app, it's inside the category inventory. It's one of these apps, and I'm going to right click and say open application, which opens it in the Workspace Explorer. And if we expand, we can see we have an XFD forms folder. And those are the forms which make up the application.
Lots of forms.
Quite a few of them.
Biorepository is one of the most complex applications in
it's a very rich
dictionary.
application. Yes, indeed. And in the HTML forms folder, we have nothing right now. So we want to fix that, right? And I think it's worth mentioning that all the server scripts is going to be reused 100%.
Yes, by design.
Yes, and the data sources. So all our efforts are going to be localized in the GUI, on the front end.
Good.
So.
And even from here, we'll not start from scratch because we'll put in action the converter that we've been working over the last month.
I'm not going to replicate all those forms by hand. That will take me ages. So instead, I'm going to use the converter.
Let's see it. Let's see it.
So the first, probably the most important form in the whole biorepository is the entrance form, which is this form FRM biorepository, which I'm going to double click to open it up in the designer to see what it looks like at design time.
Yes, it's a good practice to familiarize with the application XFD prior to conversion.
So, as you can see, it's quite a rich form.
Yes.
And if we want to see what it does or how it behaves at runtime, all we have to do is to play the run button. So this is what it looks like. It's quite rich. We have a few panels. We have a tab with 2 pages, another tab at the bottom with many pages, quite a few buttons. For example, we can click on search and pick, for example, released inventories, click OK, and it populates probably the main grid with data, and as we navigate through the rows,
and we see some transaction associated with that on the right.
So this is what it looks like, and let's start working on it.
Let's start and let's try to achieve the same kind of result after we do the conversion.
Sure. So that's the plan. I could translate one form at a time. For example, right-click the form and say convert to HTML. However, that's too time-consuming. So I'd much rather do the whole application in a single shot. So to do that, I'm going to right-click biorepository, the application node, and pick convert to HTML.
So let's leave the converter do the heavy lifting and identify all the forms in the application, dependencies, and why not whatever else.
So a little confirmation dialog. We have a couple of options at the bottom.
Yes.
Per our new style guide, we want to replace the link buttons with buttons, and we also want to remove the images.
And the converter does some work for us.
And the conversion does that automatically for us.
Yes.
So let's click convert. It shows me a pop-up dialog that says the conversion executes in a batch processor, in a batch process, and it advises me to check the log file for errors.
Let's do that.
And that's a very good practice. So I'm going to go to the server log tab, pick my username, and as you can see, there's a lot of activity going on. It actually finished. It says done converting application.
Yes.
And I'm just making sure there are no errors generated by the conversion. And
it's pretty clean to me.
It's very clean, just normal messages. And another thing to notice is that the conversion found and converted a lot of items. Forms, client scripts, which may be included by those forms, and other client scripts, which may be included by other client scripts. So it's an entire hierarchy, which the converter discovered and converted for me.
It's good.
Yeah, it's a lot of time saving.
Yes.
Now, let's go ahead and refresh the HTML forms node. And voila, those are the forms that got converted.
Surprise. Looks the same like the one from XFD.
It's exactly the same number of forms, same name, same everything. Our main form is form biorepository. Let me double click and open it up. And this is what it looks like at design time.
And it's a positive news until now. It kind of looked the same as the other one.
It's almost the same. The only thing that we chose was to replace link buttons with buttons without images, which the converter did for us. And other than that, it looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
So
are we ready to try it?
That's what I'm planning to do. So to test this form at runtime and see what happens. And to do that, of course, we have to click the play button like we did before for XFD. So the form will open up in Google Chrome, which is our browser of choice for testing and debugging forms. And it's loading up, and I expect some error. So don't imagine we won't find errors. Okay.
Well,
so I was right. So that's our first error. Yeah.
Illegal construct, but in the same time I see there in the behind this error some form being rendered, which is
it's grayed out. It's very hard to see, but it's there.
So let's pass this error then.
So what do we do when we find error like that? First of all, the error in itself is not that useful. All it says is illegal construct.
Not too much.
It doesn't tell enough information, right? So what we do in such cases, we use the Google Chrome developer tools, which is a very powerful application that you can open from this button. You go to more tools, developer tools. You can also use a keyboard shortcut, which is the F12 functional key.
Good hint.
And it opens up the tools. By default, they are docked to the right, and I would like to undock the window into its own separate window to make it larger and easier to use.
Whatever makes it productive.
Yeah. And let's go to the sources tab. That's where we can inspect our code.
Yes.
And it should have like a console dialog at the bottom, which can be shown or hidden by using escape. So I'm going to press escape to show it up.
And we see there.
Yeah, and we can see there is an error. Already we have more information. We have the entire call stack.
So not that only that illegal construct, but a lot more information.
Right, and most importantly, we can click on this hyperlink, which will take us to the exact location in code where the error happened.
So the error is on that line with hash table. And what do you believe is causing this error, Claudio?
So this error is caused by an XFD construct, which is a cast. So what the developers try to do, they try to cast this expression to a hash table object in order to be able to call the control indexer on that hash table.
And casting was allowed in JavaScript.net, but not anymore in here.
Not anymore in
JavaScript.
JavaScript, yes.
But maybe we should mention at this point to our viewers that hash table is actually a construct supported in the new HTML5 framework. It's part of a portability layer that we build together with other constructs such as dataset, int32,
strings, datetime,
string, datetimes. So therefore, that line above, new hash table, that should work. We don't
This
plan
works
to
fine. We
change
didn't
it.
get any complaints for that the new object. The only complaint is about trying to cast an expression to this type, which is no longer valid in HTML5 or
So
JavaScript.
Let's see
pure
how
JavaScript.
can we fix this then.
So the fix is easier. We have to do what the converter does for other casts that it knows about. We just delete the hash table word.
Okay.
And to find that the location in code in the designer, what I usually do, I copy the function signature.
Yes.
And first of all, let's take a look at this file. It's a JavaScript file. It has the same name as our form. It's biorepository, form biorepository. And you can find all the dictionary items under the no domain folder. And above you can find the runtime, the HTML runtime.
The code of the runtime itself.
Yes, the runtime itself, which is also a collection of JavaScript files.
So developers have now access to the source code of the runtime, not only the
So
dictionary code.
Yeah, you can also debug. It's no longer compiled binaries. It's source code, JavaScript. That helps you debug your own code into the runtime, and maybe even help us find fixes. Right? And let's notice another thing. As you can see, the location in code is somewhere towards the bottom of the script. Now, this script is not just the form code behind. It's also the client scripts included by the form.
The server-side engine does an aggregation of all those client scripts that delivers as a single package.
Correct.
And this indicates that it's
that
part of the code.
To save time and to improve performance, when the client browser requires a form, the runtime on the server side concatenates the form and all the dependencies into a single large JavaScript files, which is
delivered to the browser, back to the browser.
Yeah.
Okay.
And since this is towards the bottom of that file, I suspect it's a client script. So I'm going to again to copy the function signature, Control-C, go back to the designer, and perform a global search for that line in client scripts.
We have two findings.
Yes. One of them is the original XFD client script, and the other one is the HTML counterpart.
So the prefix there, HTML underscore, should indicate it's an HTML script, and is produced by the converter?
Yes.
Okay.
So it serves two purposes. First one is to give unique names, because you cannot have two scripts with the same name inside the same category. And the second purpose is to tell us, to give us visual feedback that it's about an HTML JavaScript file. It's no longer XFD.
So the prefix is used just for client scripts, because the form by themselves that don't have any prefix, being in a totally different
forms
category,
are
namespace.
So they have to. There are two types of forms: XFD and HTML.
And they have the same name.
Yeah, they can have the same name.
Good.
Okay, so let me double click on that line. This opens up the client script, and I'll use the bookmark navigator.
It's already there in the
It's already
screen.
there. And this is our hash table keyword, right? So let me just delete that.
That's it. That's the fix.
That's the fix. Simple one.
I like that.
Save and refresh.
Oh, Claudio, this is
That was
really
quick.
impressive.
Yeah, I surprised myself. I mean, I was expecting at least a couple more errors. This was very, very
So
unexpected.
just one simple fix, and we have the form already on the screen.
Right.
So let's take a little bit of time and analyze this form on the screen. I already spot the new theme, the new... the tab headers are different, looks a little bit more fresh, the theme. And in the same time, small issues. What else can you
So
tell?
there are some visual alignment issues. For example, I have the splitters. I can use the splitters to reposition the items on the form. And some of them follow, but others don't. For example, this grid doesn't increase with the parent. So it's probably a docking or an anchoring issue. As a result, the form doesn't look very well aligned on screen. And to fix that, we'll probably have to do another movie, because it's a task in itself. Today we are going only to focus on coding.
On the code itself.
Yes, on the
which
code.
is the most important
which
part,
is the most
I guess.
important part anyway. So.
Yes.
And the cosmetics will come in a different installment.
Good.
Because that's also very interesting.
Do you want to take it to the next level and try to click on those
let's
buttons?
Let's try to click the search button like we did in XFD. And that's
have
what
an
happens.
error.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we have another error. So what do we do next? We go to our good old friend Google Chrome tools.
Yes.
And we can see that the error happened in biorepository form.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called by illegal constructors. So the JavaScript engine believes this is a constructor, the int function. However, that's a leftover from XFD, because in .NET int is like conversion function from string to number. We don't have that available in JavaScript, so we have to replace it with a different.
So based on this snippet, it appears that the XFD developer tried to convert some text to a numeric value. When we did the analysis of the dictionary, we found out that the preferred method is int32.parse, which was recommended back then. So probably this is not that much used inside. So can we fix it now?
Yes, it's very easy to fix.
Dictionary?
Yeah, so let's go back to the designer.
First locate the code, I guess.
In this case, I'm expecting, because it's somewhere at the beginning, at the top, I expect it to be in the main form. So I'm going to try it right in the form. Right-click View Code, Control F, and search for int, and replace with parse int, which is the JavaScript counterpart.
Sure.
So let's find next, and replace, and so on. To save time, I'm going to do all at the same time with replace all.
Sure.
And as you can see, there are 41 occurrences. So again, that was an easy fix. Let's save and play again. Okay, let's try again to search. Oh,
wow!
Already we can see the pop-up
We did
dialog.
progress.
Yeah, we did a very good progress. So again, you can see the visual alignment is not perfect.
That's fine.
It's very easy to fix in the design, as we'll see at a different time. However, the form looks okay. The tabs are there. We can search for released items and say, let's try to see what happens if we press OK. Voila.
So impressive, Claudio.
The data is there. Let me try to resize the bottom part to make it more visible. And you can see there are some transactions available with the items.
We have data. We have transactions.
We have data as we move between the records. The child panel at the bottom is populated. So probably
which means that whole logic gets triggered.
So there's a lot of logic here. I suspect it's an on-row change event, which takes the master record and populates the children data at the bottom. So that runs as is. We didn't have to change anything.
Are we ready to move and try one more button then?
So yeah, let's proceed to the add button.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, add.
Another
so
form
far so
appears.
good. So we have another form. Yes, let's pick new reception. Okay.
So I can say good news. We get another error.
We have another opportunity to show the debugging techniques. Yes. And again, let's go to the Google Chrome tools. And this time it looks more scary. It's, in my opinion, this is a server-side issue.
It is. It says over there.
It says server error, and on the error we have
cannot find that form.
This message that says cannot find a certain form, which is batch inventory, DLG reception of type HTML. And that's normal because we converted only biorepository. This is a different app. It's batch inventory. So let's go ahead to do the same.
Sure.
So designer, batch inventory. Open.
So maybe we should mention that we have in plan to improve the detection logic, and maybe the converter would also automatically detect these dependencies when coming another application.
Right. So we have to. We plan to do that.
So by the time you're gonna get the chance to play with the converter, it may be in a much better shape than we are using currently.
So
we are still under development.
All the feedback we receive from people using the converter actively, we try to incorporate as much as we can into the conversion engine and into the HTML runtime. And as a result, it becomes incrementally better in both regards. So as we said, let's expand batch inventory, and the form was dialog reception. That's dialog reception.
So there is nothing under HTML forms for this application?
No, this is empty.
Okay, so let's convert just this form.
Just this form to see how that works. So dialog reception, right click, convert to HTML. We are going to apply the same visual settings, convert. This time it won't run in a batch since it's a single form. And after the conversion finishes, it opens up in the designer.
Here it is.
Again, it's a good practice to check the server log just in case something went wrong, which I suspect it didn't, but yeah, that's the original error. And after that, the conversion went, well, no errors. Okay, so since we fixed that, let's go back to Google Chrome and refresh. And add new reception. Okay.
Looks like a different error.
That's a different error. So we fixed that one. We ran into the next. So let's see what we can tell about this one. So this one is more tricky. It happens in the runtime. You see it's under the HTML runtime.
So this is the runtime code that we see right now.
Yes, and it's if we go down on the call stack one more level, we can see it's in the method exec function,
which is used inside the dictionaries to execute the function inside the form.
Yeah, you say form.exec function and you pass the function name.
Right.
And in this particular case, the runtime complains about that function not being found.
So Claudio, how can we locate the form in which this function is?
The easiest way is to... First of all, we don't have enough information here. Everything happens in the runtime. I don't know where to start from. So what I do in cases like that, I like to compare the XFD behavior versus the HTML runtime behavior, side by side.
Good.
To see where the code may take different paths.
Right.
And the best way to do that is to use the debugger in XFD in step lock with the Chrome debugger.
So the old friend XFD debugger, you get the chance to see it again.
So yeah, it comes very handy in this type of situation. So let's do that. So
let's do that,
since we know we start from the add button in biorepository, let me go to the designer. This time around, I'll focus on the XFD form.
Yes.
Add button, on click event, and I'm going to place a breakpoint right at the beginning of that event.
Right.
And I'll do the same in Google Chrome. So no domain where our business forms will be located, form biorepository, and the name of the function is this, button add on click. Control F, Control V, next a couple of times, and this is our function. So I'm going to place a breakpoint right there.
Same line.
Same line. And I'll start from the XFD designer. I'm going to run this form in the debugger.
Using the little button with the bug.
Right. Okay, so this is our form running in the debugger. I'm going to press the add button, and the execution halts on this line.
Yes.
Let me do the same in Chrome. Let me discard that.
Oh,
there is some progress. It's just not enough. So let's cancel and try again. Add, and the execution breaks on the same line.
Same line.
So since XFD is our reference, I'm going to lead it from XFD and follow up in Chrome. So going to the designer, let me step over the first few lines. By the way, to step over a function, use the F10 key. key.
Key.
To step into a function, you use F11.
F11. Good
Same
hint.
in the designer and in Chrome, it's the same.
Same shortcuts both in our designer and both in Chrome
Yes.
debugger.
Yes.
Okay.
Very similar. So let me F10. Let's see if it takes the if or the else. It breaks on the else. Let's do the same in Chrome. F10, F10, and it breaks on the else. I mean, it follows the else path.
Right.
So let's step over that. Over that, and let's see if it goes. So this is the
Accept the
accept the
application.
application dialog, right? So I have to pick something, and I'll step over again, and pause on this line to do the same in Chrome. So F10, F10. Let's pick new reception, and we broke on the same line.
Yes.
So let's continue. So this is a function invocation. I would like to step into that function.
Yes.
So this time around, I'm going to press F11. Now F11 takes me first through the parameter function.
So this is not our function
This
that
is
we
not- no.
wanted to step into.
It's not the destination function. It's one of the functions in the parameter list.
Sent as argument to
Right.
our function.
Yes, here. So our function, which we want to step into, calls other two functions
So goes first
to
into
copy the
those, and
parameter.
after
Yes,
that.
it goes into those first. So I have to get rid of those at the beginning. And then if I press F11 one more time,
It's our function.
this is my function.
Mhm.
So let's do the same in Chrome. F11, same function which I need to get out of. Second function.
Can we step out in other way from this
Yeah.
function, Claudio?
You have, for example, this button, step out.
Mm-hmm.
And if
Let's
you click
try
on
that.
it, it takes you back at the parent.
Good tip.
So F11, and again we are on the same function
Same
in both
function.
places.
Mhm.
Again, it's a function call, so let's step into that as well. F11, F10, Google Chrome, F11 to step into, F10. Actually, this is we are a step further now in Chrome. So as you can see, what happens? It makes a call to the server side.
Right.
And it passes two pieces of information: the transaction code, which is add reception, and S inventory type, which is null.
Which is null.
Let's see what happens in XFD. So let's step over that. So the transaction code, which is add reception,
Same.
and inventory type,
Oh,
which it's not null,
It's
it's
not.
biorepository.
different.
Different. So that's our very first, I mean, a very important clue right there.
So since we are basically reusing the same backend, same data sources, same server scripts, we have to invoke them with the same parameters
same
if we want
parameters,
to
right.
receive the same results.
Yeah. Otherwise, they will return different data sets, which will cause different behaviors on the client side.
On the client side,
which
in
is
the code.
exactly what happens now.
That's what we suspect. Yes.
So we know the culprit is this variable called S inventory type. So I have enough information now. I'm going I'll let the debugger play. I don't need it anymore for the time being. So what I'm going to do is to copy the name of this variable, S inventory type, and go back to my main form, biorepository, and see where the assignment happens. I mean, when is the value of that variable set to a meaningful value, and why that doesn't execute?
Yes.
So let's Control F.
Somehow in HTML remain null, and while
Yes.
in XFD was assigned to a different value.
Right. So let's find that place where the assignment happens. So I'm going to search the variable
The
name.
variable name.
And already
This looks suspicious already.
this looks suspicious already.
Looks
Yes.
to me some loose code outside of the regular event handlers that we have in
Exactly. So
XFD.
this is code which is outside any function.
Yes.
So in XFD, code like that used to be executed with every single event,
Yes.
every single time. In HTML5, that's no longer the case.
No longer.
This code, the loose code, that gets executed only once. And
And maybe we should mention this is by design, and we don't change these behaviors. So all we have to do is to adapt the code behind here to
so
make it work with the new design.
In HTML5, it's a major performance improvement because only the code related to an event is evaluated or executed at runtime, not the entire code behind the form and the client scripts. So what we have to do in such cases is to find where the sinventory type variable is used and copy that snippet before.
So since this line is not executed for each event handler, we suspect that that variable remain unassigned.
Yes. Yeah. So probably the very first time when it's executed, the form variables get returns null. This variable is set to null, and it stays like that forever. So that's not good. So we have to fix that in the following way. Copy the line.
Yes.
And continue searching for that name. And you see, that's exactly the case. This variable is used here as a parameter to this function. However, it's null. So we have to make it non-null by pasting that line of code at the beginning of the function. And we have to repeat this exercise for each and every usage of this variable. So let's go ahead and do that.
Continue with the search.
Let's continue with the search.
Quite in a few places. So while Claudio is doing this replacement exercise, I should mention that this loose code is not very often encountered in Stagrim's dictionaries. We did the analysis. So in those extreme cases that you find, you have to do something similar with what Claudio is doing here.
Okay.
And
So
we're
back
to
at
the
the beginning. Yes, so we finished. And since we did inventory type, we should also do the remaining two.
Still part of that loose
Otherwise,
code.
they would suffer from the same problem. So let's do also the data grid current variable. So Ctrl F, dgd current. Okay. So we're back at the top. So let's do
One more to go.
One more to go. So let me do the same for this application. Ctrl C, Ctrl F. Comment.
Different assignment. Yeah.
Okay. So
we're good.
We're good.
It's not used.
It's not used at all. So let's save, and again,
Are we ready to refresh?
Yeah. So we have to refresh every time we make a change. We need to refresh.
So what's that expression of yours?
So
It's
more of the same. You do wash, rinse, repeat.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's the drill.
So again, what we were adding, right?
Yes.
So add. Let's remove the breakpoint for now. New reception. Okay, so no more errors.
Well,
at least
it's,
so far.
Again, we see the window here.
So the captions use a small font. That's a leftover again from XFD.
But we are not concerned with that right now.
No, so we can ignore it. And just
in the HTML5, we are using a new font, is the Roboto, so probably due to the different font sizes.
So this came because they used bold.
Right.
And bold also comes with the font family and font size. And the size is usually 9.5 points, which looks very small in HTML5. So what we plan to do in the converter is to remove all font information coming from XFD. And let the style guide, the CSS, take care of the layout.
So let's play with this form a little bit.
So let's see what's mandatory, strictly mandatory. For once, the site seems to be mandatory. So let's it's read-only. Probably in order to fill out the site, you have to click on this button. So let's do that. And this is a list of sites.
Well, at least this window appeared with no error, so apparently it was converted by converter with 100% success rate.
Right, so as you can see, it's a very simple form, and as we've seen, simple forms, even medium ones, are converted almost 100%.
Which is a good news, I could say, because in typical dictionary, majority of forms are simple forms and then medium forms, so it's a huge time saving for this, the converter being able to do the job for us.
Right, so our clinical team ran a statistics on their product, and they found a very interesting fact.
Yes.
So if you take the collection of forms and you analyze their complexity based on number of lines of code, for example, they follow like a bell distribution. So the vast majority fall in the middle, and those are small and medium forms. And to the margins, we have the oddities, the exceptionally large ones.
So
which are very few.
How many of these kind of large forms, such as biorepository, do you believe exist in the typical dictionary?
So I would say it's lower double digits, between 10 and 20, maybe less.
Good, that's a good thing.
Not very many.
Yeah.
But those will give you the most of the headaches.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
pick
a record and click OK. And
it gets populated there in those text boxes.
Right, so the contact and the email were taken from there. So let's go next. It looks like a wizard.
Yes.
And again, we have a mandatory field, which is material type.
What's in that project?
We'll go back to it. So let's
another window that worked fine.
Another error. So
another error. It says data table select.
This is a very interesting one, and I'm glad we encountered it, because I can show you another pattern. So again, let's discard it and go back to the tools application. And this time around, the exception happens at this line. So what we can see, we have a data set and we have a table, the first one in the list. And they call the select method on that table, and they pass it a string, which is the where clause. Now, in XFD, that used to work fine, because the .NET dataset engine knew how to take where clauses and scan the tables and return you the rows. Right. In JavaScript, we had to implement a similar interface API, but we don't know how to do that. So what we did instead was to enforce a callback function instead of a where clause.
Sure.
And it's in a way your responsibility to put the matching criteria inside the callback function.
So this is a design decision. Basically, we implemented the data set with as many methods and properties as possible. Select member here is implemented again in HTML, but the signature is a little bit different by design.
So if you go,
can we see that?
We can go to the runtime implementation, and we can see that the select method requires a callback function, and if you pass it a different data type, it throws this exception.
So it should be of type function or lambda expression of that kind.
Fortunately, that's very easy to write, as we'll see shortly. It's not difficult, and it's not a very encountered situation. So it's very easy. You have to refactor your code a little bit. So let's do that. Let's do that. So first of all, let's find that location in code. So let's go back to the form biorepository. Again, it's somewhere towards the top, so I suspect it's the form itself.
Yes.
So let me find this line, Control C, designer, form biorepository, I want the code, Control F, Control V, oops. Wait a second, maybe it's not form biorepository. No, it's another one. It's transaction reception. Sorry, my bad. So let me go back. Transaction reception, that's the one. So view code and find next.
Here it is.
And here it is. So first of all, let me get rid of that alert.
Yes.
And then let's refactor this line. So we can reuse most of it. Control C, Control V. However, we have to replace the string with a function. So function.
So we'll use an anonymous function this time.
Okay. And in the function, we need to provide the matching criteria, which is, so the function receive, actually it's a callback for each and every row. So we need to provide the row variable. and we want the
allows
row
you to filter the
yes.
based on this function. Yeah.
So the rows column from unit code we want to be equal to S-unit code. That's our criteria. And we need to return.
And
So it returns a Boolean value, like a logical true or false. If the row matches what we look for, we return true. Otherwise, false.
Sure.
It's very simple.
Let's not forget to comment out the first
Good catch. We have to
option.
comment this out.
And I would say to give our viewers an exercise and convert this version of anonymous function to a lambda expression. That should work as well.
Yeah. So you can use lambda expressions as well.
So are we ready to?
Yeah.
test
So
now?
let's save. Let's save. Control S, and we have to cancel this spawn. We have to refresh. Add new reception. Okay. Site. And next.
While are you on this form, I would like to check what's inside that project. Combo.
Okay. It's nothing. Which is a flag.
It's a
I mean,
concerning,
why? Right.
thing.
So why do we have a combo without any data? Is it a bug or is it the expected behavior? So the easiest way to find that out is to go to XFD and see what happens in the original XFD
Yes.
application.
Let's
So
do
let's
that.
do that. So we said add. We broke on the breakpoint because this was running in the debugger. So let's remove the breakpoint and continue. And try new reception. And we said we wanted to pick a site. And next. And this is our project combo box. So if we try to open that up, we notice it's empty.
It's good news.
It's good news. So it's same behavior in both. So it's not a bug. It's the expected behavior.
Then we can continue with the HTML.
Yeah. So let's go back to HTML because we know it's doing okay. So we said we wanted to pick a material type because it's mandatory. That's blood. It's the only one available. And again, another error. So
Another error.
it says cannot convert a symbol value to a string. So we know what we have to do. It's happening here. It seems to be an alert. So
Well, for now, Claudio, I'll say to comment out that line.
let's
the
comment it
interest
out.
of time.
Okay, so let's go back to the designer. So it's transaction reception. This is the form. And this is the alert.
And that's the alert.
So let's just do a return here.
Return DS units, perhaps.
This unit here.
And in the interest of time, let's move on with this error.
Okay. Refresh. Site. We said next. Material type. There will be blood. We can already see some kind of alert.
Yes, fine.
And let's say we want 3 samples.
It's a good number.
It's a round, beautiful number. And we also have to pick up a location.
Okay.
So let's do that. And run into the next error. So we know what we have to do. Again, this looks kind of scary, so it's probably again a server-side error.
Indeed.
Yeah. And this time the error said that it could not find this client script. And that, of course, it cannot find it because it doesn't exist probably. So let's check that. Let's double check the assumption. So this is module selection helper client script category. So let's go to client scripts. Module selection helper, and the name was
I cannot see it
location
there.
manager helper. We have the XFD one, but we don't have the HTML one.
Right.
So we have to create it. Now, unfortunately, we don't have right now the option to right-click the client script and pick convert to HTML or to JavaScript.
It's on the backlog.
it's on our backlog, but in the meantime, we have to do something different. So we can try a trick.
Let's
so the only way to do it is to reference it from a form. So let's just create a very, very simple form.
Name it T. I like it.
It's a very short name. And let's just go to the scripts property. And let's reference that script. So module selection helper, and the script is location manager helper, right?
Yes.
And let's add, and okay, and save, and save. And now we need to convert this form to HTML. To do that, we have to check it in.
So this step, check it in, it's a required step.
Yes. So this is by design. The converter assumes that a checked out form is work in progress, so it skips it.
Make sure the forms are checked in before converting them.
The converter wants the form to be stable,
yes.
to be checked in. Okay, so let's save. And let's make sure we have that script now. So let's refresh. So module selection helper, and sure enough, no.
Well, we should convert the form first.
Oh yes, I didn't convert the form? No, we didn't. Yeah, you're right. Convert to HTML. Yeah, we didn't. Sorry. Okay, convert. Now we convert it, right? So now let's refresh and go back to module selection helper, and sure enough, it's there.
Yes.
Okay. So let's delete the form, the temporary forms. We don't need that anymore. And do what? Refresh and try again. So add, new reception, site, next, 3 samples, material type first, and location. And this time around we have the form. So it looks like we have to pick a site, and then we have to find a room within that site.
And the form, it looks nice and was just created automatically. Good, with the images and everything in place.
Is there. Everything is in place. So let's hit OK. And
it gets populated there in location.
We have everything.
Are we ready to click done?
So okay. So let's keep our finger crossed and click done.
Another error.
Not there yet. So another error. So let's see what's wrong this time around. So
but we don't go home until we fix it today.
No, nobody leaves until we fix this.
Well, it's Friday evening here in Hollywood, Florida. But
so nobody goes to the beach just yet?
Not yet. Maybe we should get pizza and spend the weekend.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go and see what happened this time around. So we've seen this before. We know how to fix it. It's again int, converting a text to an integer value.
It's a familiar error this time.
And this time is in the form name transaction reception. So let's go back to transaction reception. Control home, Control F, int, and let's replace that with parts int. Replace, find next. So that's the only usage. We can save and try again. Add new reception, site, next, blood, okay, and 3 samples. In our site 1 and location in the room. Okay. And
let's hit done.
Ta-da! No, not again.
Another error, but this time looks different. It's a SQL error.
It's a different class of error.
It's a SQL error over there.
This time it's a SQL error, so I suspect it happens on the server side. So at least the form was trying to send our input over to the server side.
side.
So we made very good progress. So let's see what's wrong on the server side now. The easiest way is to go back to the server log tab and refresh.
Yes.
And the error says that there's a SQL date time value which is outside of the expected range.
Right.
So I think I know what happened. I failed to provide the reception date for my samples. And since
you
I didn't,
that.
Yeah. So it's very easy to fix. So let's say okay, and let's try one more time. This time around, I don't have to refresh because I didn't do any change. But I'll be careful this time, after I pick my site, to also pick a received date.
Yes.
So let's do exactly that.
Even if it appears there a little bit selected.
So this is a bit confusing because it shows up as a valid date. However, it's null or undefined.
Let's not worry about that right now. So let's
that
pick
can
that.
be easily fixed in the code. So let's not worry with it now. Let's say next. And again, material type. Three samples in our usual location. Okay, and
done.
Done.
Well,
Ta-da!
Claudio,
Yes,
that's
those are our samples.
very good response here. We have the data in the grid. We see the transactions on the right.
The transactions are here, so that since it's a draft, the number of transactions is different from a released sample. If we move between the samples, we can see that the bottom part gets refreshed.
So all that logic gets executed. Apparently we don't have errors this time.
So yeah, so we made awesome progress for 1 hour.
Awesome progress. For 1 hour we've been able to display this window with data. We saw the search dialog, the add dialog with the wizard pages there. Well, Claudio, it's really encouraging. I think our viewers will understand now what gets to convert an application.
Yeah,
it's
so
a little bit of work. We cannot hide that, but in the same time, the benefits
bit tedious and but it's
are huge.
It's much easier and much faster than recreating everything from scratch.
Yes.
Because even in that case, in addition to the massive amount of work you have to perform, you still have debugging sessions like that. So it's not like the debugging is gone.
And I like always to say you don't preserve only that investment made into this huge code base, but also you leverage the people knowledge and skills. They have a similar API. We have a similar API in HTML5, so people should find that pretty familiar.
Right. I would say the only learning curve is going to be with the Google Chrome developer tools, which many of you may already be familiar with. So, but once you learn that and you kind of master it, it's very easy. It becomes
very easy.
Yeah.
And for new forms that you can create just from scratch in the HTML designer, you'll be basically an HTML developer in no time. If you're an XFD developer, you already know how to do HTML5 forms.
Yeah.
Claudio, thanks again for taking the time to walk us through this debugging session. It is said that it's not very easy to debug other people's code. Claudio took the clinical dictionary, was not his code, but he managed to do this.
Actually, when we did it the first time, it was a joint team. We had people from clinical, so we did like a workshop, and it was much easier for me because they know the forms very well, the script, so it was much easier. Much
easier.
Yeah.
So if you didn't see the other video, go check the other one where we showcase the HTML5 biorepository, the polished, a little bit polished version.
Yeah. The final
so,
okay.
Yeah. Until next time, happy coding. Claudio, thanks again.
Thank
you
you
can
very
go
much.
to the beach now.
Yes, let's go.
Yes.